Well, you look at that. Looks like NBC wants to show off a couple Trump tweets for their audience. Let's read some. Oh, look at this. This is the most important tweet of all. Ambassador Sondland did not tell us, and certainly did not tell me, about a connection between the assistance and the investigation. So there you go. The fake impeachment inquiry is now dead.
So, Senator, welcome back to Meet the Press. Let me just start with...
Yeah, after last time you just completely ramrodded him and railroaded him right on out of there.
Your reaction to what the president tweeted about Ambassador Yovanovitch on Friday.
Good morning, Chuck. Well,
be strong.
I thought it was kind of interesting when President Trump was leaving the White House, going to Atlanta, and people were talking about his behavior. He said, my behavior is caused by you. The constant torment. I mean, the investigation. So, listen, I would
fake
prefer you not
provide
that type of tweet. But, we start out with something else here, Chuck, because I don't want to argue every point. Something we agree on. As Americans, we all share the same goal. We want a safe, prosperous, secure America. We're compassionate. We care about each other. And generally, we solve our political differences at the ballot box,
right,
not in the streets or through impeachment. And I think that is really, as we talked the other day, that's the divide that is tearing this country apart. And that's what I'm primarily concerned about.
That's right. And guess where it starts? Right from the left. They've got a box of tricks up their sleeve that we haven't even seen coming yet.
I want to get into a little bit of the specifics. So I want to get you to react to something that the ambassador said
she didn't say anything.
Particularly about what Rudy Giuliani was doing. Take a listen to her testimony.
I obviously don't dispute that the president has the right to withdraw an ambassador
So what are you bitching about? You kept your job. You're still employed. You just were removed from a position. It happens all the time, girlie.
at any time, for any reason. But what I do wonder is why it was necessary to smear my reputation.
You smeared your own reputation when you hooked up with George Soros.
It's a fair question for her to ask.
Is it?
Sure it is. And again, I have no problem with the ambassador.
You have no problem with all of this, it seems. Come on, grow some backbone.
Me when I was made one of my trips over there. It's going to be very difficult for future presidents to have a kind of conversation with the world leader, because now we've set the precedent of leaking transcripts. It's good, the weakening of executive privilege is not good. And by the way, those individuals that leaked this, if their interest was a stronger relationship with Ukraine, they didn't accomplish this. Having this all come out into public has weakened that relationship, has exposed things that didn't need to be exposed. When I was in Ukraine with Senator Murphy, one of the points I was trying to make is, as we left that meeting, let's try and minimize this. Let's talk about this as a timing difference in terms of funding. Senator Murphy's on the Appropriations Committee. We will restore the funding. I came back and I talked to Senator Durbin. He offered an amendment.
He's trying
that
to
same
say what you don't know.
The funding was released. So this would have been far better off if we would have just taken care of this behind the scenes. We had
Now that doesn't sound too good for us. That sounds like we're trying to do some swindling behind the scenes. Come on, Johnson.
The government.
Okay.
Most people wanted to support Ukraine. They were trying to convince President Trump. And so I listened to the Washington Post article lionizing this whistleblower. Listen, if the whistleblower's goal is to improve our relationship with Ukraine,
Bring him on.
He utterly failed. And let me consider that as part of. Go ahead.
Let me pick up on what you said there about all this going public.
Just give him the
because you actually raised an interesting question about this. Why was the president so insistent that President Zelensky had to be public about announcing an investigation? And I ask that because, one of the foundations of due process in this country is actually not to publicly announce who you're investigating, because you may be investigating some...
Oh, really? Don't announce any investigations. Or Roger Stone, Paul Manafort. Let's hear that again. And listen real carefully.
Announcing an investigation. And I ask that because... one of the foundations of due process in this country is actually not to publicly announce who you're investigating, because you may be investigating somebody who's innocent.
Gee, 3 years Russia collusion and now this. And they don't even assume innocence until proven guilty.
Yet the president wanted Ukraine to violate one of our great protections in the rule of law and publicly announce an investigation regardless
It's a prima facie criminal case.
of whether there's guilt or not. Why did he want to go public?
I'm not sure that's the case. I certainly understand that President Trump wanted to find out what was happening in 2016 and what, how did this false narrative about Russian collusion with his campaign occur. That I know, because that's from my firsthand testimony. What I also know is when I sprung that on President Trump in my August 31st phone call, he completely denied there's any kind of arrangement that Ukraine had to do something before he released that funding, and this is what has not been reported from that phone call. At the tail end, it was a pretty long phone call. We talked about a bunch of other things, but at the very end, he wrapped it up by saying, "You're on. I got a hurricane I have to deal with, but I hear what you're saying. We're reviewing this. I think you're gonna like my decision." So he's already
This guy is kind of making the president sound like he's giving the brush off to something. It's just something not right.
leaning toward providing that funding on August 31st. My guess is that if this never would have been exposed, that funding would have been restored, and our relationship with Ukraine would be far better off than it is today.
Again, you seem to say that you seem to blame this on everybody but the president. It was the president's actions.
I'm not blaming anybody, Chuck.
Well, you are. You're blaming everybody else for the reason.
Blaming for what? If there is no crime, you can't do time.
Other than the president's. Isn't the president's own behavior which raised all of these yellow and red flags?
He sets foreign policy. He decides which ambassadors to remove. He should have removed her right away. She should have never been there. This is such a coup attempt. A coup attempt. It's not a coup yet. Just remember that. They're attempting a coup.
Isn't
Good
that
luck.
why we're here?
Again, I'm sympathetic with President Trump as he's been tormented from the day after his election. Quick little quote from the lawyer of the whistleblower. This is 10 days after his inauguration. Coup has started. First of many steps, rebellion. Impeachment will follow ultimately. Now, if this whistleblower was, to be lionized by the Washington Post, maybe we ought to take a look at, who he hired. He could have hired an unbiased officer of the court. Instead, he hired Mark Zayed, who said, coup has started, first of many steps, impeachment will follow ultimately.
Why shouldn't viewers assume that you're looking at President Trump through a Republican lens here, because you were already much tougher, ready to go to impeachment on Hillary Clinton with no evidence that anything that happened with that server somehow got into foreigner?
There was evidence. He just said there was no evidence. Oh, there was plenty of evidence. And then the other half of the evidence they destroyed. That's a crime, Chuck Todd, you criminal enabler.
Hands when we actually had evidence regarding what happened at the DNC.
Oh, he wants to bring up the DNC. See, this is the perfect opportunity for this one to come up and say, crowd strike, crowd strike, crowd strike. 2016 election, 2016 election.
That's what I suggest, Chuck, because I got a letter last night from Representative Jordan and Nunes asking for basically my telling of events. I'll be working on that today, so I will lay out what I know in terms of this. And
so, are you going to testify?
To a certain extent, some of my perspective.
No, he's not going to testify.
They're not going to call me because certainly Adam Schiff wouldn't want to be called by the Senate. There's going to be a separation there, but I think I will reply to that. And I'll supply my telling of events, which is difficult to do in 8 or 10 minutes on a show like this. We are a divided nation. I am highly concerned about that. I know you are as well. No,
he's not. He's the one dividing the nation. You see, Chuck Todd has an agenda. Just like all these Democrats. They're not here to help the nation unite. They're dividing the nation since day one.
Understanding the other person's perspective, and that's what's not happening right now.
Senator Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, thank you for coming on and sharing your views, sir.
Not allowing it.
Have a good day.
You got it. Joining me now is the Democratic partner of Ron Johnson. They're the team trying to get aid for Ukraine, Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator Murphy, welcome back.
Sure.
First of all, what have we learned so far this week
that
says,
absolutely
and this to me
nothing.
is the bar the Democrats have to meet, that what the president did was so egregious, he should be disqualified from being able to seek a second term?
He just said, this is the bar that they have to meet. Okay, yep. They called it quid pro quo a couple weeks ago. Then what'd they do? Oh, they panicked after the first day of hearings. It didn't go their way. So guess what they did? They got safe dogs to be able to pet so that they remain calm. Yep. To me, that's quite hilarious. But what did they do? They had a little focus group, and they said, quid pro quo ain't cutting it. We gotta do something serious. Let's up it to extortion. So last week, they had extortion. Our president's being accused of extortion for having a phone call with another president. You have to be a victim in order to be extorted. But that wasn't good enough for them. No, they just kept crashing and burning left and right. And I can't stand it.
Because that's the bar.
So, guess what they changed it to? Bribery.
President Zelensky dispensed with the formalities of the meeting. He started to immediately talk about the fact that this aid had been suspended. It was that important to him because his soldiers were dying on the front without American aid.
Okay. Yeah, back in 2015 when Ukraine requested military aid, their soldiers were being murdered and you did nothing. You provided blankets. Barack Obama. Throwing them blankets when they needed Javelin missiles. Well, guess what? Guess who gave them the Javelin missiles? It was Donald J. Trump. Yeah, that's the military aid that was being supposedly withheld to make sure that they were doing their bit on corruption. Clean up the swamps in all the governments. That's what this is about.
Use the word extortion. The Washington Post reported earlier this week that several Democrats have stopped using the term quid pro quo, instead describing bribery as a more direct summation of Trump's alleged conduct. You said extortion. The shift came after the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Did you hear him correcting? You said extortion. He had to say that because they're all on the same script. You see, they are all saying the same thing. And if one of them strays just a hair, just a fraction, blows their whole game. So literally breaking from reading this quote from the Washington Post, he corrects him.
Grounds, though. I would get it if you told me it was all of America, but it's clearly about House is playing.
You know, I don't read House campaign memos. What I know is that my job is to try to explain to the American people why this is so serious. And listen, I'll admit, I think we have a challenge, right? I think a lot.
His job is to explain to the American people just why this is so serious. I think I'll leave it on that note. I hope people see this because that's some breaking news right there. They're all just shoving the script down your throats. There's no escape. How do you think Trump feels? Till next time, we got a little shifty shift impeachment week again, and I'm sure you'll be tuning in. But until then, this has been Alphabet Sunday, and we done ski.